2007. This was the year where I was first introduced to playing Maplestory. And then, for the next few years, I had spent most of my time playing this game, until the summer of 2012, where I had finally quit. This marked as being the end of an era for me. And because this game played a significant part of my teenage years, I had a pretty hard time letting go of it. And it was probably the same for other people who also quit. But it was inevitable. Our time was up, the game massively changed, and we all had to move on to new things. Sometimes I would get hit by a sudden burst of nostalgia, and other times I would go several years without even thinking about it. However, I recently learnt that Nexon are in the process of developing a classic version, which would apparently be a faithful recreation of the version that I played back in 2007. And since the announcement, the memories of the game that I once grew up with just haven't stopped flooding my mind. Literally to the point where I'm considering on returning. But I can't help but ask myself, is this a good idea? So, Classic was announced around 2 months ago, and I don't really keep myself updated on what Nexon release or follow what happens in the community, because the game is a thing of the past for me. My last YouTube video I created about Maplestory was 14 years ago. However, my YouTube recommendations feed decided to make me aware of this news. I don't know why it was served up to me, but it was. And there are going to be thousands of ex-Maplers who are not going to be aware of this, and may even live the next few decades of their lives not knowing. And so, for them, it will continue to serve as a loving memory of the past, and that's not a bad thing. The past is the past, and it can be argued that trying to relive something that is only fueled by nostalgia can have a negative impact. And I'm going to explain why. I believe that age and time spent away from the game will determine what kind of an impact that playing Classic will have on you. A big majority of people are going to be either current or returning players, and just like me, they will be in their mid to late 20s or early 30s. When the game was first released back in the mid 2000s, it was something that was ahead of its time. It was easy to understand, it had a distinct gameplay, attractive 2D visuals, and you essentially had a customizable avatar that you could use to explore, kill stone golems, and socialize with other people. Apps such as Facebook, Instagram, Discord never existed back then, but Maplestory did. If new players, regardless of their age, decide to join, then their experience is going to be completely different. Okay, there was MSN Messenger and Skype and email, but for us, our primary form of communication was in the game. And because we were young, curious, and unburdened by responsibilities, it was the perfect thing to invest hours into every time we came back from school. But now that the majority have quit, new games such as GTA 6 coming out, technology advancing, and getting older, life is a bit more complicated. So, for everyone, we're not going to see the game the same way to when it was first released, not to mention that the progression was quite slow. So this itself could be a turning off point for newcomers. However, for returners who have spent many years away, their experience may be more special. They probably have an idea of what to expect, but it would almost feel like their first time playing. And for people who still play, Classic will probably be just another server to them, except a lot more tedious. And then there are obligations, such as full-time jobs and loved ones to attend to. It's very important to find a balance so that you can spend some quality time on the game. The term private servers has been thrown around a lot, but I don't really recommend joining one of these. I admit, around 4 years ago, I had a brief spell of nostalgia during the COVID lockdown, and I couldn't resist the urge. So I ended up joining a private server, and it was the first time in a decade that I got to experience killing monsters again, and it was great. I enjoyed reliving some old memories, but the nostalgia started to wear off. And when it fully did, I started to pick holes in the server, and eventually I quit again. It just didn't feel authentic. Teleporting to different maps, making mesos was simple, leveling up was so fast, and hardly anyone did party quests. It just felt too easy. The complete opposite of what the old Maplestory was about. Okay, granted, the old Maplestory was a bit time consuming, but it was challenging. And that's what made it so memorable. Every beatdown, every death, all the hours you spent trying to get that independence honey. And then we end up paying millions of mesos that we don't want to spend on it. So, if you have a strong willingness to play, then I recommend just waiting for Classic, to give yourself the best chance to relive something as long as possible until you finally tell yourself that it's just not the same. If the decision to play is purely fueled by nostalgia, then just be aware that it is temporary and you might end up quitting sooner than you think. Okay, the people who think that Classic should have shortcuts and that it'd be a lot easier should go join a private server. I do believe that Classic has to be an almost identical copy of the version to when it was first released. I mean, isn't that the whole purpose of this project? I guess some exceptions can be made. Recently, I've seen a few posts regarding quality of life, pay to win, and HP washing. Now, I didn't know what any of these things were until I started going on Reddit a few days ago, and I never even knew that pay to win and HP washing was a thing back in the day. I wasn't really someone that was active in grinding the levels. I was just kind of doing my own thing. And when you think about it, grinding the levels wasn't the only thing that you could do in the game. A lot of people spent years doing other things. You could be an FM merchant, you could be a leech seller, you could be a drop gamer, you could be someone who just wanted to create characters just to try out all the classes. I mean, I played for nearly 5 years and I think I just reached 106 or 7. But I do understand that HP washing is something to do with purchasing AP resets with real money in order to boost your health and survive boss damage. And because the game's main focus was leveling and bossing, I can understand how problematic this can be and how expensive it can get. So yeah, maybe Nexon should address this and other pay to win issues, because something like this will definitely be a deal breaker for some people. But anyway, I'm sure that if Nexon have a good team and they carefully analyze what is and isn't working, then they should get it right. Another common theme that I have made myself aware of is what the defining moment was when Maplestory died, and the resounding majority agree that it was after the Big Bang patch. Now, I don't have much of an opinion for this, and I don't speak for the community in saying that I thought it was fine. Although, I was only around to experience it for maybe 1 or 2 years, but during that time, I never felt like I lost the magic. Okay, gaining EXP became easier, there was some class balancing, and I think the user interface changed slightly, but not to the point where it was unplayable. The game naturally expanded, and adapting to the changes wasn't a big deal. I actually really liked a lot of the new content that was released post Big Bang. I really enjoyed Knights of Cygnus, and I loved the introduction of the ore mining feature. Although, I wasn't a big fan of that trade icon, and I think the free market sort of died once that feature was introduced. But many other social aspects of the game still existed. Yeah, it was a shame though. I definitely preferred seeing what everyone was selling in Channel 1 FM. Oh man, I f***ing love this game. The endless grind to level up, the thrill of reaching level 70, the joy of finally entering a party quest but everyone's AFK, the pain of having to wait another 15 minutes for the boat ride to Orbis, the excitement of when a monster drops a maple weapon, the amount of times you got scammed and you never seem to learn from them, that jump quest that you could never complete but then you finally end up completing 12 days later, exploring a new map and then getting randomly killed by this f***ing thing, that stupid boogie that keeps taking your powers away, playing a drop game and then you end up losing everything, the pain of using a return scroll on the wrong floor in EOS Tower and then getting sent back to the wrong town. All these failures, successes, challenges, we hated it. But at the same time, we loved it. And I think people realised over time that this is what made the game so special. Because it was about that story that they created for themselves and the friends that they met along the way to help them through that journey. And I can understand why there are so many people who yearn for that experience again. Because the current Maplestory has changed so much that it can't give it anymore. And in all honesty, this classic Maplestory project is going to be for those people. But it will also be for those returning ones who want to relive their teenage years again and go on that long journey. So, you know what? Forget everything what I just said. Go start your second Maple chapter.